Alright, well, I didn't want to make this video, but I think I have to. There's an increasing trend where 3D printer companies are just basically screwing over their biggest fans and early adopters. And this really sucks because there's a lot of hype around a new product launch, and everybody's excited to buy a printer, and this is when the most orders roll in. And all of these excited customers get screwed over, like completely. Take for example this Creality K1. A lot of people were excited about this machine. I got an early review unit of it, and it was before they were selling any of these things. I got to take a look at it. And the extruder wasn't really sorted out, but I'm like, okay, well, hopefully they'll fix that for the actual production version. But no, they shipped them out with extruders that some had issues, some didn't. If you get one of these machines now, it should come with the new extruder. In another month or two, hopefully they'll have sorted out any remaining little bugs, and they might do a price cut. And you might also be able to put Clipper on there, which is what they really should have put on there in the first place. Not this Creality version of Clipper that nobody asked for. And things aren't much better on the Bambu Lab side of things. I bought this P1P when it was first announced. I hopped on the pre-order, so I got a free fan and free light and camera that I got to install myself. That was kind of their reward for early adopters, is like, hey, we're going to charge you full MSRP for this, but we're going to give you some things that you have to install yourself. I haven't bothered installing this fan yet, just because it didn't really seem all that necessary on an open frame printer. But now that it's enclosed with my P1S upgrade kit, I might need to install this fan. It just seemed like a lot of work to get this LED mounted properly, so I just kind of taped it to the frame in this kind of janky manner. And then you've got the webcam, which you have to put in here, and then kind of tape the little ribbon cable in a specific way, and then plug it in. I actually plugged it in backwards when I first installed it because it's using a ribbon cable with one of those tiny little connectors, and it's not completely clear how to plug it in there. So I might have shorted something out and damaged my wireless LAN capabilities on this machine because I haven't been able to get it to connect over LAN since that kind of episode. It was kind of iffy before then, but now it just won't connect ever. So basically, by pre-ordering this machine, I got the privilege of installing these things myself. And then a couple months later, they announced, hey, you know what? We're actually going to throw those parts in for free for everybody. So, if I would have just waited a little bit, I would have got the machine with everything pre-installed. I wouldn't have to worry about doing some janky little installation and ruining a good portion of the functionality of this machine. And then just a few short months later, they announced the P1S, which, that's coming in at the same price as the original P1P. So it just really gives me the feeling that they were planning on releasing this P1S the whole time, but they released the P1P as kind of a stopgap measure because they can sell the same product for the same price and put way less parts on it. Then you also give the people who already bought a P1P this whole feeling of missing out, that they don't have the best machine. Now they have to buy a $150 upgrade kit or buy a whole new printer. It just really feels like they're milking the market and milking us for all we're worth. That doesn't feel good. And on top of all those additional features that you get with the enclosure, the extra fans, the extra parts that were originally not included, you just get like a much better overall package with that P1S. So anyone who bought the P1P really got kind of rug pulled. You basically have a product that's missing a lot of the capabilities of what you would get if you just bought one now. They cheaped out on so many parts of this machine. They didn't add side panels. They used a really cheap USB cable that would fall apart if you try to put a cable chain on there. It's missing so many pieces that it's just like, wow, they really stripped this thing down as much as possible. So yeah, now if you want to buy the P1S, you can get a $150 upgrade kit. So it's like, all right, thanks for giving me that upgrade kit. Now I've ended up paying essentially $880 for this thing. And add to that, I have to spend my time assembling this thing, putting it together, and hoping that there aren't any minor differences or assembly issues as I'm doing that. So for $880 plus 2 hours of your time, that's essentially $950 if you value your time at, $45 or $50 an hour. At that point, with that expense, I could have just got the P1S with an AMS upgrade kit. So, you're getting so much more by just not buying things when they first come out, that it just kind of, that I just kind of feel like it's mistreating the people who are the most loyal to your brand. They're taking your loyalty, and your loyalty is like a sponge, and they're just squeezing all of the money out of it. So if you want to get a product early, you just really kind of get screwed over. Yeah, that's kind of soured me on the brand for Bambu Lab. I mean, sure, it's a great machine, but the experience that you're giving to your customers and that feeling of missing out, it's like, man, I wish I would have never bought this thing. And I could imagine feeling the same way about this K1 if I paid my own money for it. I made this video hyping this thing up because it is genuinely a really cool and fast printer, but the people who adopted it early kind of got screwed over the most. I think in a month or two, someone will probably come out with a community version of the firmware so that you can just get this thing running on Clipper right out of the box. It really seems like the optimal time to buy a 3D printer is 3 to 6 months after they launch it, because everybody in the market right now is just rushing printers out as fast as they can. And they're sacrificing QA, they're sacrificing build quality, they're sacrificing features and charging you more for it. The software and firmware is inevitably half-baked on all of these companies when they first release their new products. A lot of us YouTubers in the 3D printing space are responsible for the hype about these new machines when they first come out. But the honest advice is that you probably shouldn't buy a new 3D printer. Wait a while. When they launch something new, just give it a couple of months and wait for them to sort everything out. Having to deal with all these early adopter problems is more trouble than it's worth. And also, if you're watching a video made by someone who's reviewing the printer on the very first day that it comes out, that person has probably been given the printer for free by the manufacturer. They probably have a relationship with that manufacturer that involves continually getting free and early access 3D printers and affiliate codes and probably sponsorship payments too. So if you buy on the first day hype, you're probably getting, probably misled a little bit. You don't have a perfect, accurate representation of what these printers are when they first get released on YouTube. So just wait a couple of months, wait for some real people to get real machines, ones that haven't gone through extra quality control for the YouTuber privileged, such as myself, and just see, are these printers actually worth getting? Now, I'm going to keep making videos about printers, and I get early access to these machines, and I have relationships with these brands. And it does kind of suck that that ends up with people out there in the 3D printing community spending money on printers that are half-baked or not finished, or they're going to release another printer in a couple of months that's just a much better deal. But that's always been the case with technology, and as 3D printing continues to get more sophisticated and these machines get less and less serviceable and upgradable, that's something that we're going to have to deal with every new machine that comes out. Is it going to be reliable? Is it going to be serviceable and maintainable? Is it going to provide a good user experience for the customers? These are all questions that are really difficult to answer on day one of the printer coming out because they've only released a handful of cherry-picked samples to cherry-picked reviewers. And that's why I think something like the good old Ender 3 will always be relevant, because you can upgrade this thing. And that doesn't just apply to the Creality branded Ender 3s. That also applies to all the Ender 3 clones out there like this. I mean, the hallmarks of these designs is that they're highly moddable. All of the parts are really easy to access and upgrade and tinker with. And you can always upgrade them to make them better and have them be the most up-to-date and modern type of printers. Now sure, it's not going to be an enclosed CoreXY printer, but I know most of you are just printing PLA and PETG. You don't really need ABS. If you print with ABS, you really shouldn't be doing that inside. Even with their baloney, a lot of these companies say that you can print ABS inside, ABS and polycarbonate with no issues. But really, you shouldn't be doing that indoors, and you should find a well-ventilated environment to be running printers that are printing ABS, polycarbonate, ASA, and all that kind of stuff. PLA and PETG are relatively okay, but even then, you'll probably want a little bit of ventilation as well. But yeah, I got this Ender 3S1 almost a year and a half ago, and I've just been continually upgrading it and adding things to it. And it's just as good as any of the other 3D printers that I use, and it's just something that I really want to get back to using, because there's so much hype with buying the latest and greatest new printer, spending $500 to $1,000 on these giant boxes that can print insanely fast. But the problem with all of them is when they break down, they're going to be expensive to fix. Things like this Ender 3 or this Elegoo Neptune 4, those have an open frame, aluminum extrusion, everything's really easy to fix and modify. And I really think that's the direction that most hobby 3D printers should be going. You don't need to be spending so much on your printers. I think all us 3D printer people should really be getting back to our roots. Just get one machine, really upgrade it, keep it running, have fun with it. So this is the Ender 3 S1 that I bought a long time ago. I think I bought this one with my own money. But let's take a look at some of the mods I have on here. I've got my squash ball feet so that this thing is really easy to pick up and put down, and it has vibration damping. One of the things about all of these printers is when I pick them up and set them down, I'm like worried about things getting knocked out of alignment or bumping it against things. With this, I can just kind of drop it, and it's got a little built-in suspension system with those little feet on there. It makes it much easier to pick up and move around, which I do quite a bit because I'm filming these things and having to move my printers on and off this table all the time. Add to that, I've got my gigantic Noctua fan down here. This was part of my original Silence of the Fans video. That was super fun to install. Since then, I've also added this NG extruder. So this is like a high-end extruder with a very short filament path from the extruder to the hot end and nozzle. So it's just like really compact and tight in there, which makes it really, really good at printing TPUs and stuff. Then to get it running on this machine, I installed this modder board, which is something that I designed and developed, and I use it for modding all of my Ender 3 S1 type printers. I'd highly recommend it for anyone that has an Ender 3 S1 or Ender 3 S1 Pro or CRM4, it works on that as well, and the Ender 5 S1. But yeah, I've spent so much time upgrading this machine, and it just really holds up. It's able to print really well. I need to find the screen and plug it in. But I'm also planning on putting some more upgrades on there, like this Gamma Master nozzle from Slice Engineering. That should be able to print abrasive materials and still have a good thermal conductivity. So those are all some fun upgrades that I'm going to be getting back to. I think for me, the fun of 3D printing is modding and having your own personalized printer. And I totally get why people like Vorons so much, because that thing is just like pure customization and modding. These kind of consumer grade, buy as a microwave type of thing, sure, they work out of the box, they're minimal setup, they're very fast, but at the same time, they're a little bit soulless. You just get one of these machines and you print with it, and then add to that, if anything breaks on them, you don't know how to fix it. And there's parts on both of these machines that are epoxied into place and are basically irreplaceable, versus everything on this Ender 3, I could take this thing apart into 100 pieces and put it back together with all new refurbished stuff, and it'd be good to go. I think I'm going to be getting back to my roots a little bit, reviewing some lower cost machines, a lot of bed slingers like this, and some new ones that are coming out soon. I think right around that $200 price point is really the sweet spot for getting more people into 3D printing. I mean, sure, you can sell them a Bambu Lab or a K1 or one of these expensive printers, but realistically, this will do 99% of what most beginners want to do. If you need something that can hold up outdoors, just print PETG. If you need to print just random stuff in a variety of colors, just go with PLA. Most people don't need carbon fiber nylon, they don't need polycarbonate or ABS or ASA. Get printing, make some useful stuff, and have fun with it. I've had enough of these gigantic mega corporations producing expensive printers that nobody wants. Actually, a lot of people want them. I mean, why do they want them? Do they listen to reviewers like me and get convinced that they absolutely have to have a 600 millimeters per second printer that can blast through parts as fast as possible? Or, you know, do you just want something that you can have fun with and have a nice little hobby and enjoy printing on? I don't know. Maybe I'm not the right person to answer that question, but it's something you should think about. All right, thanks for watching this episode of Nathan Builds Robots, and I'll see you in the next one.